last year at Sibos, many of the discussions were about know your customer and anti-money laundering regulations. To discuss whether this year is any different, I'm now joined by Matt Tuck, who's the head of international corporate banking at Barclays. So Matt, last year at Sibos in Dubai, we were talking about the big themes, the regulation. It was a cloud of KYC and AML was hanging over everyone. What do you think is different about the discussions this year?
Hi Jane. I don't think anything has fundamentally changed. I think we're still wrestling with the challenge of meeting regulatory expectations in respect to KYC and AML. But I think what has moved forward is that we as banks have worked hard over the last 12 to 18 months to work out how best to meet those obligations, and we're now more in execution mode than perhaps thinking how we need to get there.
And there is some discussion that if all the banks have to do their KYC, it makes sense that the banks pool their resources and they sort of collaborate together in some areas. So what about the various industry initiatives there are out there? What do you make of them?
I think they're great. I think they're really much needed. I think we all obviously have to own our own risk decisions and our own KYC and AML at the end of the day, but we're also asking the same questions to each other as banks and to our corporates as well. So it makes a lot of sense to pool some of that work together. So if you look at initiatives like the KYC registry and the work that DTCC is doing on Clarion, I think there's real upside as banks look to meet their obligations and at the same time recognise that the cost of doing business today, particularly in just doing basic KYC, is quite restrictive, and trying to get to a lower cost model where we simplify the collection of data I think will be hugely valuable.
And what about the balance of not allowing any transactions that are dodgy and there shouldn't be, but then also on the other side you've got customers and people who've just had their accounts shut. So what about that balance? Has it been lost, do you think? I think
to be fair, in the past it has a little bit been lost, but I think that client experience journey is something that we as banks are much more focused on now. I think obviously we have to meet the regulatory requirements, and as everybody knows at Sibos, the fines can be quite huge. You need to make a lot of payments to make up for those kind of fines. But at the end of the day, there's always a client at the end of that journey. So I'm very focused actually as we look to enhance our KYC and AML process for our customers to make it as simple as we possibly can, whilst recognising that there's going to be a basic need to be able to deliver for the customer at the end of the day. And that's why I think the KYC registry and the work that's excuse me, going on with DTCC, I think, and other industry initiatives are really helpful, because banks are working together to find simple solutions where we can.
And you've changed your role recently at Barclays, so you're head of international corporate banking and also head of financial institutions group. So can you tell us about how your role has changed and what that means for what you'll be doing when you're at Sibos?
So I think in terms of Sibos, very little has changed. I will be very much in my FIG role at Sibos. As we know, it's a collection mainly of banks, although we're starting to see more corporates get involved as SWIFT tries to get more corporate engagement. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out, because obviously I'm now responsible for corporates as well as financial institution clients. So for Sibos, it'll be very much around the financial institution space, how banks can continue to collaborate, given that I think many of us have recognised that we can't do everything everywhere. Therefore, we have to focus on the things that we're really good at and use partner bank arrangements where we need services that we don't provide ourselves. In terms of my other broader role, I'm effectively responsible for all of the corporate banking offices outside of the UK for Barclays. And that's really exciting, because we've been investing quite a lot in those markets as we look to service our customers as they come into our home markets.